2026 will be an inflection point in the AI revolution. That's just one of the predictions Wedbush's Dan Ives is making as he looks ahead to the new year. Joins us now. As you see, it's good to see you.
Hey, great to be here.
What does that mean, an inflection point?
I think it's about the monetization of the AI revolution, specifically on the software side. I think obviously Palantir, we've seen that front and center, but you look at MongoDB, Snowflake, the use cases, I think really the infrastructure build out. I mean, this is really going to be a key period to show the next stage of the AI revolution from a software, cybersecurity, and infrastructure perspective.
All right, so the headline here is that you think tech stocks are going to be up over 20% in 2026. When you say you're talking as a sector, the sector is going to be up 20%.
I think sector is going to be up 20%. I actually think large cap tech, in terms of like some of the Mag 7 names, can even be up more. Like I think like a Microsoft could be up 30, 40%. I look at names like Google. I look at what ultimately, in my opinion, you have 3 to 4 trillion that's going to be spent next 3 to 4 years. You're just starting now this next phase. Like I've talked about third inning in terms of this 9-inning game, but now the second, third, fourth derivatives play out across software, across infrastructure, across cybersecurity, and that's why anytime you talk about AI bubble, I mean, I was just in Asia, right, for 3 weeks. I mean, demand and supply is 12 to 1, and U.S., for the first time in 30 years, ahead of China.
What isn't known about the Microsoft story at this point, and why is the stock underperformed relative to some others? Why could it possibly be up 40% next year?
Yeah, I think to some extent to view like, okay, it's not just Microsoft. It's what Google's done. They've had a lot of success on cloud. It's obviously AWS, and what Jassie's done is impressive. But I think what investors are underestimating is we've seen deals accelerate 30% from Azure, from our checks. So I think as Microsoft comes out in late January, as you start to see the numbers play out, I mean, I think it could be conservative, 30 to 40%. I mean, in my view, like Microsoft's a name where when I look at large cap, the table pounders here, Apple, and we could talk about that, Microsoft, and I've said I think Oracle, the sell-off here, way overdone. That, like I think it could be a $250 stock.
Why are you so sure the sell-off is overdone in Oracle?
Because I view it as like, when you think about the AI revolution, the stack, and their install base, and all the checks that we do, I'm not saying there's not going to be bumps in the road in terms of the data center build out.
Isn't that what we're witnessing sort of right now, how the street is viewing the financing behind the build out, the very build out you're talking about?
Yeah, I think the street is basically giving it little to no credit for the $500 billion that they're essentially going to have in terms of, in the future, in terms of not just OpenAI, but building out the stack over the coming years. You're going to have growth accelerating from 17% to 30% to 45%. I think investors are basically putting a massive discount saying like, okay, I'll call that, and you're not going to ultimately be able to hit that. And I think that's why Oracle right here, I continue to view as a huge proving moment that they're going to show success.
You don't have any concerns about the balance sheet at all?
Look, I view it as like, if you could take on some debt to get to really transformation, for them to really become a hyperscaler, and you look at that OpenAI revenue, and I think anyone associated with OpenAI right now, you've seen those stocks trade a lot lower, and I disagree, because in my view, like, OpenAI is going to be the epicenter of this stage of the AI revolution, and we've talked about it. It's like you're still in the early days of the monetization. I think it's going to prove out that this is a huge buying opportunity in Microsoft, in Oracle, in a lot of these names, NVIDIA included, that have sold off.
All right, so you mentioned Apple. You think that Apple, one of your predictions, number 3, Apple and Google will announce a formal AI partnership around Gemini that will finally cement a real AI strategy for Cupertino. Expand on that.
Well, I think, part of the issue, and we've been at WWDC the last few years, back to future type moments, where really they've been on a treadmill at 2.5 speed on AI. Now, finally, you have new leadership from the outside. I think you have a lot of changes happening that are setting the stage for the Gemini partnership. They couldn't do that before the DOJ win. Now Google and Apple, and I think that cements in March and April, and it sets up for Cupertino finally coming to the AI party. That's worth, I think, $75 to $100 per share. That's probably the number one large cap name that you'd own here.